Well, let's do this story then, because in this one, it is, in fact, about the money. Show me the video if you can, Dan. These are two elected officials in Pennsylvania. They're pleading guilty, get this, to taking kickbacks in exchange for throwing teenagers in jail. How's it work? Well, meet Judge Mark Ciavarella and Judge Michael Kanohan. They pocketed $2.6 million from private youth detention centers who had to keep a very high head count in order to keep their government contract. And that's why the judges were sending kids to their jails who may not necessarily have needed to be in jail. This is unbelievable. Marcia Levick is joining us now. She's the legal director of Juvenile Law Center in Philadelphia. Marcia, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I don't even know what to ask. I mean, what could these kids have done?
Well, many of them did very minor things like shoplifting, like conspiracy to shoplift. I think that, your readers reacting to and your viewers reacting to the prior video, this is a really shockingly outrageous story of personal greed by public officials that is really unprecedented, I think, in our history.
Yeah, I understand. One of the girls apparently had mocked a school official on MySpace or on Facebook, and that's one of the reasons that she was originally put on probation, which then led her to end up in jail. And, I mean, we could go on and on about the cases, but there's something bigger in this case. This judge, as we understand it, back in 2002, shut down a public detention center, in lieu of a private detention center. Sounds like he knew where this was going, jailing people for profit.
Well, I think that certainly the federal investigation does make it look like he knew exactly what he was doing, that he was able to negotiate with private individuals and private providers to line his own pockets at the expense of children.
There is a big problem in this country, isn't there, when it comes to our jails? And, you know, a quarter of the people who are in prison in the United States, according to recent studies, a quarter of the people that are in prisons in the entire world are here in the United States. I mean, that's an enormous number. And look at this trend. I want to get your reaction to this. See if we've got this full screen that we can put up. Let's go back to 1982. 1982, 2.2 million people are behind bars in the United States. Now, today, 7.3 million people behind bars in the United States. That means it's more than tripled. And during this trend, by the way, we've seen an increase in prisons and jails being run by private corporations. If you make something private, if you put a profit behind something, aren't you almost automatically going to see an increase in that, whatever it is that you just put a profit behind?
Well, of course, we increase the likelihood. There are some private providers, though, who are not for-profit. They're actually nonprofit, and I don't think that we should paint the entire world of private providers as a negative one. But this case, obviously illustrates the harm that comes from allowing people to make money by jailing people.
Well, what's the difference between a private provider and one that's not for profit? I'm not quite sure I understand the difference.
Well, the individuals, the corporations in this case, were literally making money. They were making money by taking children in. The judges were making money in exchange for placing children there. There are private providers as well as public providers who are not making a profit at doing this. They are, many of them, legitimately trying to provide a service for these children.
We have increased money in prisons in this country over the last 2 decades, and most of the people who are being imprisoned are not necessarily hard offenders. I mean, they're what? Take me through it.
Well, the children that we're talking about in this particular story in Luzerne County were not hard offenders at all. These were kids who, whether it was a MySpace page or the shoplifting or a simple slap, these were kids who were charged with very, very minor infractions and really had their lives dramatically changed by what happened here.
Marcia, we're going to stay in touch with your organization. We're going to continue to look into this because this is really a travesty. And to hear that a judge, for the sake of money, would ruin the lives of teenagers, in this case, teenagers, I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my head around it. That's a horrible thing. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.